being a martyr or feeling guilty when it's nothing to feel guilty over or feeling responsible for everybody. This would be at the root of my abundance lessons in 2019. We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Welcome into this episode of Expedition to Soul. I'm Sara, founder of the Sisters Enchanted. And if you are stumbling upon this, this is part of a series. This is episode 4 of the series where I am going through all 7 years of the Sisters Enchanted. So we have been a company for 7 years this May 2023, and I am sharing an abundance lesson from all 7 years of the Sisters Enchanted. Some of these abundance lessons are around money, some are around support, and this abundance lesson will be tied into money and also not being self-sacrificing, things like that, and really setting boundaries. So 2019 was a lot of abundance lessons for me. And I'll recap 2016. My lessons were around understanding what it is what your desires are that are greater than your fear of failure. And what's that do with abundance is we can't create abundance if we are really afraid to create it or feel passionate or like we're doing things that light us up. So that was my lesson of 2016. 2017 was really starting to understand return on investment in terms of time, energy, and also looking for proof that I could be successful, like evidence that I knew what I was doing and I wasn't going to fail. And this comes into money because I think that we'll hold ourselves back from making decisions because they feel financially risky. But where can you find the proof that, you can succeed? And also sometimes in the short term, things might cost, but the return on investment in a few months is going to be huge. And under learning that, like learning to sit with that. 2018, my abundance lesson was around support and finding an abundance of support. And I did share that would be the hardest lesson that I would ever have. And it's one I'm always learning. But a lot of that comes into 2019, which is what we're talking about today, year 4. And boundaries. Boundaries. So I think that a lack of support can come from a lack of our own boundaries. All right, 2019, my abundance story. Rolled into 2019 feeling really, really good. And I mentioned that I had joined my first small group mastermind at the end of 2018. So I was part of that. And I had an assistant rolling into 2019. And 2019, that spring, that would be the year that Anna would come, my sister and co-founder here. She would come and join us at the Sisters Enchanted as her sole income. So the business had run for a few years, and Anna was like ready to leave her other full-time job. She had worked full-time there for years, like over 10 years. And I think 10 years, maybe it was 8 years. I don't know, but she'd worked there for a long time. And she was like ready to come and join us here at the Sisters Enchanted. And it was a leap of faith for both her and me because this meant, and Anna was a single mom then, and it meant that both I was responsible for providing for my own family and also now Anna's and my other assistant. So that was a lot of fear, a lot of like deep breaths. But I looked back to those other abundance lessons and I was like, I have proof of success. And again, these lessons on return on investment, because mind you also, I had joined this small group mastermind that was costing me like $800 or $900 a month on a monthly payment. And I did that before I knew Anna was going to come work here. Like it wasn't really planned. It kind of happened pretty quickly. And so I had that on the agenda and it was just like a lot of nerves. But I didn't know, I think, and that worked out fine. So in 2019, I continued my support lessons here, but I didn't know anybody else who was self-employed, who also was a sole income earner, who also had 2 young kids, who was also breastfeeding, who also had a kid who was getting different therapies every week. And just sort of doing all those things. Like, I didn't know anybody else doing that. And I was really just like looking for help. So this is kind of a continuation of 2018. But what I learned, 2019 actually ended up being a very, very challenging year financially. And the Sisters Enchanted made money. But what I did, which I didn't realize, is that where I misstepped was that I was just looking for somebody to help me. So this is a continuation of 2018. I was really looking for somebody to help me, and I was just paying people left and right. I was like, great, you want to do this? Money. You want to do this? Money. And what I didn't understand was that there is such a thing as paying too much. Like, that is a thing. And you probably realize this when you're like, why is my cable bill suddenly jumped $100? Or like, why are we still paying for this thing we don't use? But I think as a lesson for women, and this could just, I don't know, this might not apply to everybody, but this desire to want to do good by somebody, right? Like, I'm like, okay, I want to pay like so much because I value your time and I value your contribution and like I value what you're doing here. But what I really had to learn was that money literally will not solve problems. And that, I think that was my abundance lesson in 2019, is that money is not going to solve a problem. And this is again a continuation of 2018. So if you have an existing problem and you're just trying to put money into it, like hire somebody, get the thing fixed, have somebody else try to fix the problem for you, the problem is still there. The problem is still there. And you've got to understand how to solve the problems before you put money at them. So my lesson in 2019 was around setting boundaries, taking ownership, and also, you know, uh, understanding how much to pay for things. So that was a big lesson for me. And being in a group with other people, I started to have a community where I could ask those questions of people and say, like, how much do you pay for this? And I could start to learn how to make those decisions. But I didn't know anybody in my life who could guide me on that. I knew nobody whatsoever. So investing in a group so that I could ask people, how much time does this take to do in your business? How much, what's the going rate for this person? Do you do this as a project or like a retainer contractor or an employee? And what does this look like? And starting to find people who actually knew what I was doing and actually had been there was extremely helpful, but wouldn't really pay off for me until for a while still. So 2019, I think my abundance lessons that year were really that abundance will only come when you're taking full ownership for yourself and your circumstances. Nobody else is going to rescue you. And understanding that it's not anybody's job to rescue you. Taking ownership and setting boundaries were my two big lessons in 2019. I will say I had an assistant, somebody was working here with me in 2018 to 19, and I was paying that person a monthly rate. And there were months that that person was just like straight up not doing anything. And I like knew it and would say, "Can you do this? Are you doing this?" But really kept trying to like coax them into doing the job instead of just saying like, "No." And so I really had to address with myself my people pleasing, my not wanting to like disappoint or feel like I was doing something wrong in that circumstance. And there was a lot of internal stuff that I had to get over in terms of like really being in charge of my life and taking ownership of the decisions I was making and what I was letting like be okay and who I was putting in my community. So it's really a continuation of 2018. Um, but really boundaries. So boundaries and ownership. That was my abundance lesson in 2019. So I would how my tip for you as you're thinking of abundance is everything is going to cost more than you think. Most things, right? Everything in terms of money, it's going to cost more and it's going to take more time than you think. So when we're in time and money, those are the two resources we all want more of, right? Everything's going to cost more and everything's going to take more time. So spend your time, spend your money and your energy accordingly. Spend all of those things accordingly and really start to take ownership of all of that in your life. Take ownership of where your energy is going, take ownership of making decisions, take ownership of setting boundaries, take ownership of expectations, but also solving the foundational problems in your life. Take ownership of that, because that will help you actually receive abundance in whatever way you want to receive it when it's available to you. If you're not taking ownership, though, of any of these things in your life, whatever that is for you, whatever your circumstance or however this story lands with you, like insert these ideas to your current circumstance. It doesn't just have to be like, obviously I'm self-employed, but put this into your circumstances, and where can you take more ownership to, just create that alignment to the abundance you desire? Because me just like willy-nilly paying people that's not an alignment with abundance, right? That is like just throwing money out the window, hoping something sticks. And that is not how you find abundance. So think about where in your life you're doing something similar. Is it with your time, where you're just like spending 4 hours on a Saturday, reorganizing your house again, hoping something sticks, but without understanding like, oh, actually, maybe we need to move the furniture, or maybe we need to get rid of half of our stuff or sell some stuff, right? Like, what's the problem and how can you take ownership of that? Okay, so the abundance journey continues. And my lessons from 2016 to 2019 largely centered on return on investment. So, where am I spending my time, my energy, and my money? Not just money, but my time also. Where is my time going? And is it the best use of my time? And creating community, creating the support and abundance of support, and also making decisions that were in alignment with abundance and not like fear, throwing spaghetti at a wall and having no idea what was going on. Because that is never good. All right. So we're up through 2019. Y'all know what happens. Y'all know what happens the next year, right? 2020. We're going to get into that one in the next episode. If you want some help with all of this mindset stuff, understanding abundance, and creating spaciousness, confidence in your life, boundaries, all of this, and money, of course, be sure to check out our Holistic Witchery program at holisticwitchery.com. We take you through our 5I expansion framework in that program, and we're kicking off with a round of Conjuring Abundance, which is an additional like bonus that comes with Holistic Witchery, and that starts in June. So you can learn more about that at holisticwitchery.com, and I will see you in the next episode of our abundance series. Until next time, I hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses, and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. There are new episodes every Tuesday and astro forecasts for the week ahead every Friday. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.